was a hot, humid night, the kind where the air feels like a heavy blanket. I had all the fans running on full blast, but it wasn't providing much relief. The house felt stuffy and claustrophobic. I decided to open the windows to get some air circulating. As I went around the rooms on the first floor, I unlocked each window and pushed it all the way up. I figured I'd leave them open overnight since it was still so warm, even this late at night. Returning to the living room, I poured myself a cold drink and settled on the couch, aimlessly flipping channels. The weatherman was calling for another scorcher tomorrow. I sighed, thinking about dealing with the heat again all day at work. As I sat there sipping my drink in the dark room, the open window made me feel exposed in my thin shorts and tank top, like someone could be out there, hidden in the shadows, watching me. Don't be ridiculous, I told myself, taking another big gulp. Still, I couldn't shake the uneasy prickle on the back of my neck, the sense of unseen eyes following my every move. The wind picked up, the sudden gust causing the curtains to billow inwards. I startled, my heart skipping a beat. Get a grip. You're letting your imagination run wild over nothing. But when the wind died down again, the feeling of exposure remained. I got up and checked that the front and back doors were locked up tight. Of course they were. I was just being paranoid, spooked by who knows what. With all the windows open, the house settling made every little creak and pop louder. Heading upstairs to bed, I closed all the windows except the one in my bedroom. The unsettled feeling had faded. I took a quick shower and climbed into bed, reveling in the cool cotton sheets. I drifted off to sleep pretty quickly. Sometime later, I stirred, slowly becoming aware of a repetitive tapping sound. Still half asleep, I listened closely, trying to place the odd noise. It seemed to be coming from outside. I sat up, wide awake now, my heart thudding as the pieces clicked into place. Someone was tapping on my bedroom window. Fear flooded my body with adrenaline. I flew out of bed and dropped to the floor, crawling towards the window on all fours. Only the sheer curtain covered the open window, allowing me to peer out unseen. The yard was empty, but my skin prickled with the sense that unfriendly eyes were out there, watching me. I sat with my back against the wall under the window, afraid to make a sound. Maybe I imagined the tapping. Maybe it was just a tree branch. Please let it be my imagination, because the alternative was too terrifying. I couldn't bring myself to look again. As the minutes ticked by with no more noises, I started to calm down. Just a bad dream or something, that's all. I stood slowly, shaking off the silly fear. Everything was fine. The lamp on my nightstand suddenly turned on, the click of the switch like a gunshot in the quiet room. I gasped, clutching my chest as I whirled around. A man stood right inside my window, his grotesque face grinning wolfishly at me. Before I could scream, he put a finger to his lips in a shushing gesture. "Don't make a sound. You don't want to make me angry," he said in a guttural whisper. He slid the rest of the way into my room, his movements smooth and controlled like a predator on the hunt. I opened my mouth, but only a tiny whimper came out. He crept closer. I tried to back away, but my legs felt leaden, paralyzed by fear. Up close, I could see his cold blue eyes shining with an unsettling gleam. There was something inherently wrong about him, something evil. "Please just take what you want and leave," I choked out. He responded by grabbing my upper arm hard enough to bruise. "Oh, I'll take what I want, but I'm not leaving for a long time. We're going to become very close friends," he said. His free hand slid down my body, and I flinched away with a yelp. With a growl, he shoved me onto the bed and climbed on top of me. I thrashed and clawed at him, but he just laughed softly as he pinned me down. His breath was hot and moist against my skin. "Shh, stop fighting. You're only making this worse for yourself," he purred. I whimpered as his hands roamed freely across me. This was really happening. My worst nightmare come to life. As he yanked at my tank top, Something in me snapped. I would not let this monster violate me without a fight. Mustering every bit of strength, I brought my knee up sharply into his groin. He grunted in pain, and I managed to wriggle out from under him. I leaped off the bed and grabbed the heavy lamp, swinging it wildly. It cracked against his skull, and he collapsed on the floor with a thud. Not wasting a second, I bolted downstairs and grabbed my phone to dial 911 with hands that shook so bad I could barely press the buttons. Relief crashed over me at the dispatcher's calm voice. Help was coming. Please hurry. He's in my bedroom. He came in the window, I blurted out breathlessly. She promised officers were on their way and told me to wait outside. As I ran for the front door, I heard him stirring upstairs. Once in the safety of the open front yard, the dam broke. I sank to my knees on the cool grass as gut-wrenching sobs tore from my chest. The enormity of it all hit me. Somehow my trembling fingers managed to text my neighbor house 911. Help. She arrived in minutes, gasping when she saw me crumpled and weeping. Her arms wrapped around me just as the police cars pulled up, lights flashing in the dark. The next few hours passed in a blur as I recounted the horrific events over and over. They searched the house but found no sign of him. He had escaped back into the night, but he knew where I lived now, knew how easily he could get to me. I stayed at my neighbor's house that night, too terrified to be alone. Exhausted as I was, I barely slept, and I knew one thing for certain: I would never feel safe in my own home again. It was a warm summer night, and I had the windows open to let in the breeze. I had just taken a shower and had on only a tank top and shorts as I towel dried my hair. I heard some faint noises outside, probably just raccoons, I told myself. This rural neighborhood had lots of wildlife roaming around at night. I went to close the curtains, wanting privacy to get ready for bed. As I reached for the sheer inner curtain, a face outside the window made me gasp and stumble back. A man was standing in the shadows, staring at me. My shock quickly turned to anger. I yanked the curtains closed and stomped to the back door. I flung it open, hoping to confront the creep, but the yard was empty. How dare someone peep in my window and invade my privacy like that? I checked the locks on all the doors and made sure the curtains were tightly closed. My hands trembled with anger and unease. I felt violated knowing someone had spied on me in my own home. The next evening, I was hyper-vigilant as I got ready for bed. I kept peering out the windows but saw nothing suspicious. Still, I changed clothes in the walk-in closet, just in case. As I was washing my face, movement outside the bathroom window caught my eye. I gasped as I saw the same face as the night before. He ducked down quickly, but I had gotten a better look at him this time, a white male with scraggly blonde hair and a baseball cap. Fury boiled up inside me. I was not going to let this pervert keep leering at me in my own home. I stormed outside in my pajamas, but he was already gone, leaving only rustling bushes behind. I called the police and they came to take a report. They said they would patrol more at night, but without evidence. There wasn't much they could do. I could tell they didn't take me very seriously, assuming I was just an overly nervous woman. But I knew what I saw. Over the next week, the peeping Tom became bolder. I would notice him ducking down outside windows as I passed by. One night, I heard a scratching at my bedroom window after I'd gone to bed. When I hurried over and flipped on the patio light, I caught a glimpse of him sneaking across the yard. The police continued to shrug off my complaints. "We haven't found anyone actually on your property, Mom," the officer said with clear skepticism. I started doubting myself. Was I imagining things? But the fear and violation I felt were real. I became a prisoner in my own home at night, jumping at every sound. I noticed signs that someone had been messing with my windows, prying at the latches. I kept the curtains drawn 24/7 and put motion sensor lights all around the house. But still, he came back. Terrible scenarios ran through my mind. What if he breaks in one night, Clearly, just calls to the police wouldn't keep this man away. He was escalating his behavior. I had to take matters into my own hands. I started leaving lights and a radio on at night to make it look like I was awake. One night, emboldened by frustration, I left the patio door unlocked. My plan was risky, but I was determined to catch him. Around 2 a.m., I heard the patio door slide open. I grabbed the baseball bat by my bed as heavy footsteps entered the house. As the intruder crept towards my bedroom, I jumped out, bat raised. "Get out," I screamed. The man yelped in shock before sprinting back towards the patio, but I was ready for him. I chased him outside and swung the bat, feeling a solid crack as it connected with his back. "How do you like being violated, you sick freak?" I yelled at him. He groaned and mumbled something I couldn't make out. I pressed my foot on his back, pinning him down as I called the police. Finally, I was able to prove to the officers that I had a real stalker, and it wasn't just in my head. Turns out the Peeping Tom was my neighbor from down the road. He had become obsessed with me. I had to upgrade my home security system, keep the curtains permanently closed, and stay vigilant. But I refused to be driven out of my home, and I walked with my head held high, knowing I took back control. No longer was I a powerless victim. The justice system would deal with this criminal, but I had taken the power into my own hands. And I showed him that this woman was not someone to be trifled with. As I testified against him in court, I stared him down. I was no longer afraid. I knew that I was capable and strong, and that my home was my space. He failed to take that away from me, though he tried. These days, I advocate for taking stalking seriously instead of brushing it off as no big deal. I volunteer at a women's shelter and share my story to help others feel empowered. Sure, I still get anxious at noises at night. I keep my bat close, just in case, but that anxiety and fear will not rule me. I won't change how I live my life just to accommodate a predator. This experience taught me that I'm stronger than I realized, and that monsters are real, but I can fight back against them and win. No longer will I be a victim. I emerged the warrior. It was a warm spring night, and I had the windows open to let in the fresh air. I had just gotten out of a nice hot shower and was looking forward to relaxing in front of the TV before heading to bed. I threw on some comfy pajamas and padded barefoot to the living room. As I scrolled through the channels trying to find something to watch, I thought I heard a strange sound coming through the open window. It sounded like heavy breathing. I froze, listening closely. There it was again, the distinct sound of someone breathing heavily just outside. My heart started to pound faster. I crept slowly over to the window and peered out into the darkness. I didn't see anything unusual in the backyard. Maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. I snapped the curtains closed and ran to lock the back door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the deadbolt. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The dispatcher answered on second ring. 911, what's your emergency? Her voice sounded crackly through the phone. There's someone outside my house, I whispered. I heard someone breathing, and I think they're right outside the window, watching me. Okay, Mom, I'll send a patrol car to your address right away. Are you somewhere safe inside the house? I'm inside with the door locked. Please hurry. I'll stay on the phone with you until the officers arrive. They're on the way. Is the person still outside your window? The heavy breathing had stopped. I don't know. I can't hear them now. What if they got inside somehow? Panic constricted my throat. I glanced around wildly as if the intruder would jump out at me from the shadows. The officers will check the full premises, but if your door is locked, try to stay calm. I'll dispatch them code 3 so they get there fast. Talk to me. What's your name? It's Emily. Hi, Emily. I'm Sharon. Help is coming real soon, okay? Are you hurt, or does it seem like the person wanted to enter your home? No, I think they were just watching me. Saying it out loud made my skin crawl. The thought of some creep spying on me through the window made me feel exposed and violated. Sharon continued trying to keep me calm, asking questions to keep me talking. The minutes stretched by agonizingly slowly. Every tiny noise made me jump. I knew the cops would be here any second, but I couldn't shake the ominous feeling that I was still being watched. Finally, flashing red and blue lights spilled across the living room walls. I sat against the couch cushions in relief. Sharon said she'd stay on the line until the officers came to the door. I peered through the curtains and saw 2 cops searching the perimeter of my house, flashlights in hand. One came to the front door while the other headed toward the backyard. I let the officer in and explained what happened in a shaky voice. He was very kind and reassuring, telling me I did exactly the right thing by calling 911. The other officer suddenly shouted from outside, "Hey, I found him!" My blood turned to ice. They really did catch someone out there. The officer had me wait inside while they hauled the guy to a squad car in cuffs. A few minutes later, he came back and said a man had been crouched right beneath my bedroom window in the bushes. He'd been watching me through a gap in the curtains when I came out of the shower. The violation I'd felt earlier came crashing down on me tenfold. I felt nauseous and lightheaded thinking about this creep seeing me in nothing but a towel. The cop asked if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes, absolutely. I wanted him arrested and far away from me. In the following days, I barely slept. Every little noise jolted me awake, and I kept imagining I heard heavy breathing right outside my window. I knew he was in jail awaiting trial, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling of being watched. A few weeks later, I was in my kitchen making dinner when a floorboard creaked behind me. I whirled around, holding the knife I'd been using to chop vegetables in front of me. There was no one there, but I couldn't dismiss it as my imagination this time. I just knew someone was in the house with me. I inched toward the hallway, flattening myself against the wall. The house was eerily silent. The creak came again from somewhere near the living room. A faint scratching sound followed. Someone was here. My hands trembled so violently I could barely keep my grip on the knife handle. I crept toward the living room, my socks masking the sound of my footsteps on the hardwood. Slowly, I peered around the corner. Crouched beneath the very same window was the outline of a man, my stalker. He was out of jail already. He glanced up and flashed me a leering grin when he saw me, putting a finger to his lips. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. He stood up suddenly and started lumbering toward me. I stumbled backwards, finding my voice again to let out a ragged, primal scream of pure terror. He tackled me to the ground, easily grabbing the knife from my shaking fingers. I thrashed violently beneath him, but he was too strong. He pinned me down and pressed the cold steel of the blade to my throat. "Shh, don't fight me. You'll only make this more painful," he whispered. His hot breath on my face made me gag. "I told you I'd come back. I'm not letting you get away from me again." The knife bit into my skin just enough to draw blood. I froze, whimpering, unable to take my eyes off the stark madness in his stare. He smiled wider, trailing the blade down my chest teasingly. Somehow, my hand brushed against my cell phone in my pocket. Moving infinitesimally slowly to avoid notice, I slid it out until I could reach the screen. By some miracle, I unlocked it and opened my recent calls without him noticing. I hit redial, praying that the call would somehow connect. "Please," I croaked. He frowned and pressed the knife harder against my throat in warning. I didn't know if 911 could hear me or if I was speaking to dead air, but I had to try. "Help, he's back. He's going to kill me." His eyes blazed with fury, and he raised the knife high above me. As it came slashing down toward my chest, the echo of a gunshot rang out. My attacker's body went rigid above me, the life fading from his eyes. He collapsed to the side with a heavy thud, Behind him stood two police officers, guns drawn. The dispatcher must have alerted them when she heard my call. The officers rushed to my side as I curled into a ball, shaking and sobbing. "You're okay, we've got you. It's over," one said gently as he put a blanket around me. It wasn't fully over. I knew there would be sleepless nights and paranoia plaguing me for a long time, but the immediate terror was gone. My stalker was dead on the floor, no longer able to torment me. The officers helped me up and walked me outside into the cool night air, promising I was safe now. I took a deep breath and believed them. It was finally over. It was a warm Saturday night in late spring. I had the house to myself for the weekend while my parents were away. At 20 years old, I was relishing the freedom of being home alone with no one to answer to. I ordered pizza and settled in to binge-watch movies in the living room. Around 10 p.m. during a lull between movies, I heard an odd scraping sound outside. I muted the TV and listened closely. There it was again, like something rubbing against the side of the house. Probably just a tree branch blowing in the wind, I told myself. I tried to ignore it, but the sound persisted. My nerves started to creep up. I peeked out the front windows, but couldn't see anything unusual in the darkness. Still, I couldn't shake the paranoid sense that someone was outside. I turned all the lights off to reduce the glare and peered out the window again. That's when I saw it. A beam of light flashing intermittently around the side of the house. I watched in confusion, trying to figure out what was causing it. It took a moment before the horrible realization dawned on me. It was a flashlight. Someone was creeping around out there. My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled back from the window, my heart pounding. Whoever it was couldn't see me, right? The house was pitch black aside from the TV's glow. Should I call 911? What would I even tell them? I didn't have anything concrete. Just a vague light and noise. They would think I was overreacting. I sat paralyzed with indecision for a few minutes before working up the nerve to look again. The flashlight was still there, the beam methodically probing along the back fence as if searching for something. A chill went down my spine and suddenly I was moving, no longer hesitating. I raced to the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife I could find. After making sure the front and back doors were locked, I flew upstairs to my bedroom and shut myself in, locking that door as well. My hands were clammy on the knife handle as I stood with my back against the wall next to the window. My lungs felt tight, like I couldn't pull in enough air. I strained my ears, but it was perfectly silent. Maybe whoever it was had left. Then I heard a faint creak from right below my window. There was a thud like something heavy landing on the ground, followed by slow, deliberate footsteps crunching through the grass. He was right there, less than 10 feet away on the other side of the wall. I shuddered, thinking about how easy it would be for him to slip inside my bedroom window if it was open. I would be completely helpless, trapped upstairs with him blocking my only escape route. I could hear the boards groaning under his weight as he crept closer along the edge of the house. I pictured him pressing his face right up to the glass to peer inside. My skin crawled at the thought of being leered at, violated by some peeping creep's unseen eyes. Nausea twisted my stomach, but I fought to stay calm and quiet. If I gave away my presence by making any noise, it would only get worse. He didn't know I could hear him out there. I still had that tiny advantage, the only shred of power left to me. Something tapped lightly on the window, and a bolt of adrenaline shot through me. Was that his hand testing the pane to see if it would open for him? Bile rose in my throat, but I forced the scream down, biting my fist to stay silent. The intruder seemed to give up on the window eventually, much to my weak-kneed relief. His footsteps trailed away, and I heard rustling in the nearby bushes instead, accompanied by heavy breathing just loud enough for me to make out. My stomach turned as I realized what he was doing out there in the shadowy yard. Revulsion roared with fear in my mind. I felt violated in the worst kind of way, but still so very helpless to do anything about it. The sounds eventually ceased, and I heard him slink quietly away, back out to the street. Only once the neighborhood was silent again did I find the courage to move. I ran to the hall window and peeked out in time to see a shadowy figure hurrying down the road, flashlight in hand. In the morning light, I searched for evidence. The flower bed below my window was trampled, but I found no footprints. I scoured the yard's perimeter and discovered several small holes drilled into the boards and fence slats, some at eye level. I inspected every window and found the same, tiny spying holes everywhere. He had been watching me for who knows how long, invading the privacy I thought I had in my own home. Nowhere felt safe anymore. I wanted to wake up my parents and beg them to come home, but I knew I couldn't tell them what happened. They would say I must have imagined things in the dark and dismiss my fears. So I said nothing, but I started locking my bedroom door and dressing in the closet. I bought window shades and nailed them up over every pane in my room. I slept with the lights on and kept a weapon under my pillow. I no longer felt safe anywhere on the ground floor, so I moved into the guest room upstairs permanently. I jumped at every creak, anxiously looking out to see if he was back. I stopped going outside after dark and distanced myself from friends so they wouldn't come over. My world shrank down to just the top floor of the house. But none of it changed the fact that my security had been irrevocably shattered. There was nothing I could do to regain that sense of safety I'd taken for granted. He had been here watching me, and he could come back whenever he wanted. I sank into a state of constant vigilance, obsessively checking and rechecking the locks. The dark corners of every room held unseen threats. I stopped sleeping properly, and my grades tanked. My parents eventually noticed the changes, of course, but I just said I was struggling with stress and depression. What I really needed was help feeling secure again. Therapy to process the trauma inflicted by the faceless man who intruded on my privacy and haunts my dreams. But no one knows the real cause. No one but me and him. Wherever he is, I hope he's satisfied by reducing me to this. He slipped inside my mind, if not my house. The girl who once felt so safe here in her home no longer exists. He stole her sense of security and peace of mind just as surely as if he broke in to take physical possessions. I can only pray he doesn't come back, that the twisted thrill of spying on me through the cracks was enough for him. But even if he's gone for good, the damage is already done. These wounds go deeper than anything physical. He can't take back the violation I carry with me now, wherever I go. That creaking branch or clicking blind still spikes my heartbeat with panic. A bodily reminder that my haven was breached. The fear lives in me permanently now, just like I live in this house. Except unlike him, I was invited in. This was my home, and now nowhere feels like home anymore.